still launching the book. Now, ahead of the launch, obviously, that's where we get the opportunity to also look into what is happening. Now, the book I'm talking about is Chosen. Well, we have the author in studio. We're talking about one of Uganda's most prominent police officers. Now, he rose through the ranks in police to become the Assistant Inspector General of Police. But now, he is back in the community. And the one thing that he has given us, or as I think a parting gift, but as well a start of a new journey, is his memoir, a book which is an autobiography. That is, in his words and pen, he's putting a history of what he has done. Obviously, giving us what has been happening, his roots to go into police, his experiences, and of course, going into one thing that he has always talked about, that police no muntu wa bulijjo. How do you relate that story? Now, in his own words, he has put it into a book which he has named Chosen, to give us, of course, what we can look into it. Now, I won't speak much about the book because he is here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a retired police officer now, but of course, retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Asan Kasingye, with us this morning. You're very, very warm welcome, and say good morning to our viewers.
Thank you so much, Maria. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, friends. Thank you for whatever you're doing, and thank you so much for having me here.
Well, it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure for us to have you this morning. Now, writing a book, I can say this is something that Ugandans are like, yes, this is the humor that we have always known to get from Asan Kasingye, and of course you're bringing it back, but also giving us such a story.
Yep.
It takes a moment for you to say, okay, I want to write my story. I want the rest of Ugandans and the world to know what my story is and relate with what happens as a person being, moving from community to police, and all your experiences. Tell us more about this book, how you made it be, titled Chosen in the first place.
One time I did a master's degree, and of course you're required to write a dissertation.
Yes.
So when I finished this dissertation in 2001, and I found it, I put copies in the police library. It was in the department at Makerere University, the Department of Political Science. And when I found it there, Asan Kasingye,
Yes.
and it was titled Implementation of Community Policing in Uganda. And I said, wow, supposing I have a book,
Yes.
Supposing this turns into a book, and it is in the shelves, that would have been nice. Now, the idea started from there. But the most important thing is that I'm giving an accountability about myself. Okay? And it starts from Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. That before you were born, before you were put in your mother's womb, I knew you. This is God talking to us. I knew you. And I predestined you to be who you are. So, I guess I was predestined by God, and I give an accountability of who I am and what I have been able to do. So this is my journey. This is my autobiography. It traces from where I'm born to the schools I went through, the communities that I was born in, the work I have done in the police, the challenges that my family, okay, and now that I'm going back to the community. So it looks at all that, and I think I gave it a right, chosen, that I was chosen to do that.
Clearly you were chosen to do that, and of course that is the story that we are now looking forward to. Myself, I just can't wait to have a copy of that book and really get into the reading as we head into the launch. But first, I want you to walk us through the journey of this book, chapter by chapter. I understand it has 27 chapters.
Yes.
And in all that, you give us, it's not just one storyline, but chapter by chapter, you're taking us through a different part of your life during within police, but also giving us your life journey before you got to police. And walk us through what happens with chapter 1 as we head into the 10th chapter, as we do the 20th chapter.
The first chapter deals with where I'm born from. And I think I bring out the fact that you see every person you see at that time was born from the community. That the community has a very, very important role of raising up a child. A child is born from parents, but is raised by a community. Now, quite often than not, we are who we are from where we are raised from. And when you read through that, it raises very important questions about today's parenting and today's children. Okay, and it tells a lot about who we are right now. So that is a very, very important aspect of the values that have been imparted into us from the very communities. The parents, what are the kind of values that they give us? Now, do those values reflect who you are now? That is now what comes out from the formative, from formative stages of this book. But it also takes, I take the reader through the journey of my education, formative education. What kind of education did we receive? What kind of education did I have, and how does it play as I go along, and even as I work? What kind of values did it impart in us? And of course, there's something that happened as I finished primary 7. There was a war. I finished primary 7 in 1978. Okay? And as I was about to go to senior 1, a war erupted. Okay? This is a war to push out Amin, President Amin. And as young people, we were internally displaced. What we went through as young people, that we had to fend for our parents, wherever we run. We are running towards where the TPDF, that is Tanzanian People's Defense Forces, were coming from. Okay? So for us, we are going towards them and running away from our own government forces. And this book takes you through what a war means. So some people don't know that we were exposed to the political conflict at a very, very, very young age. So I take the reader through that. Probably the ramifications of what someone faces at that time and now is that maybe
how that shapes you, how that actually inspires you into what you like. Because most of us today can't understand how that would be affecting you growing up to choose such a career. But obviously now, with you taking the readers through that chapter of your life, I think that is something that is very inspirational, beginning in chapters of the book.
Sometimes when you're in offices and you're working for people, there are certain things that go through your mind. Okay, so because some people may ask, where do you get the engine that drives you? Yeah. And then you're like, you see, I don't want to go. I don't want other people to see what I saw. I may not be in UPDF, I may not be but whatever vocation you are in, there are those things that you experienced when you were young, and then they drive you. The ideological foundation that you have, okay, is that, do I know where I came from? Do I know where I am? And where am I going? And these are kind of things that define us. Okay. Of course, the book also takes the reader through my education up to the university. And that poses a question, how did I join the police?
Yes.
Okay.
I would also want to know, because if you say in your dissertation you were actually writing about police, so I'm thinking even then you had already chosen a career to even take service at that level. And this morning you actually quoted something from the Bible that was John 12:26, talking about service. Yes. And I'm thinking this is a book which also has a lot of quotes in the Bible, and it talks about Jeremiah being in the first chapter. That's one of my favorite books. Yes. Walk us through the journey as you are in school now, and you're thinking of service. How does that relate to what you're taking through readers with the book chosen?
I tell you what worries me. The kind of people you see in government service, the kind of who they are, will invariably depend on the kind of families they come from, the kind of communities they come from, the kind of education they have gone through, and the decisions they have made from that. Nobody should deceive you that we just come into government offices and do that kind of work that we are doing. It will depend on what you went through. My decisions to join the police, if you read through this journey, it depends very much on how we were prepared. Okay? When you at the university, because I never from childhood intended that I was going to join the police. But the kind of situations that we are going through made me come out with a decision on why I joined the police.
Well, that is something that you have taken on with a lot of humor as well. What you have, because at a certain point, I think we were in an era where people just, approach police as this kind of force that is just there to, of course, law and order, but you're not relatable. Like, as individuals, we would hardly relate to police. But then you are here taking us through this journey, and throughout even your police service, you've made sure to, relate with people and give them that kind of feel that we are relating to police. You're able to understand, and some of that is actually what you're bringing in the book as well. And in the last chapters, you talk about the irony of life. I want you to tell us about how that comes through, because you're unveiling something that we need to know. What is in the last chapters where you're talking about the irony of life?
The last chapters talk about irony of life. The last chapters talk about, what I have given back to the community. What is it that you have given back to the community? Before I go to irony of life, the last chapter about giving back to the community. You see, I think very many people, especially young officers, must realize that what you're doing right now, it relates very much from what the community has predestined you to be. Molen, I do realize that I dig deep into how I was prepared. Okay? I dig deep into how I served the community. Okay? And I ask myself a question. I say, yes, what do I want to be remembered for? Okay? What are Ugandans going to remember me for? Okay? And I think everyone who is working right now in government must remember that the community made you who you are, and you must give back to the community. And of course, you talk about how I tried to relate with the public. Why did I join even social media? How is because I want to have the public relate with the police. For me to join community policing at that young age in 1994 up to today means that I realized that we serve the public. We serve the citizens of this country. And I wanted them to bring them closer to the police. Today is a communication age. We are in an information age. And you must find people wherever they are. And whatever they think about you, you must bring them closer in order to serve them. Now, the irony of life is that whatever happens, it could have been different. Okay? What is it? The irony is that I give testimony of so many things that I was able to do in the police. Probably you didn't know it was going to come out like that.
Yes.
And you find yourself in it. I give examples. For example, did I ever think that by becoming a police officer, I am going to be tested to the limit? There are certain things, there are certain situations that tested me as I go through this journey of work. And I give examples of what happened even when I was serving what happened to me as I serve. Those examples come out in this story. And I will give an example. The Bijabia massacre.
A big story in Uganda at the time that took everyone by surprise.
Took everyone by surprise.
No one knows anything about it.
Exactly. Or the COVID-19 operations. Okay? That you wish that when you are serving and you wish to solve something again comes out.
Yes.
One very good example that I want to give is when I went to meet the bishop, the Catholic bishop of Lusaka. And something had happened while he was in the piano. And while I was there, and I went to him, I said, Bishop, whatever happened, it was not intended this way. It was this and this. And then he said, my son, kneel down and I pray for you. And after that, we sang and I said, I have nothing against this. I forgive whatever happened. And we exchanged. I had gone with some. You know, at that time, actually, that was my first activity after coming out of the hospital. I had suffered from COVID-19, you remember?
Yeah.
And I was one of the first people that suffered from COVID-19. And I said, when I was coming out of the hospital, I said, I don't want any other Ugandan to suffer from this. And I made masks. Before the government even made masks, I used my little resources, my salary, my little salary, and I made something like 200 pieces of masks. And I wrote on police, community policing, and Uganda Police Force. And I exchanged and gave him one of them. They were in a box and I even didn't touch it. And there are many, and very many people picked. After that, he also unfortunately got COVID. And he succumbed. You know what he got? That I gave the bishop. I put poison in the mask. And that's what caused his death. Iron of life. That even when you're serving, sometimes there are people who think that you do something. But of course, the iron of life also, I'm talking about other things that even people told my parents that why did he join the police? That kind of thing. But also the iron of life is about you tend to do so much, but sometimes you don't. You may not be able to see the benefits of that. And I asked myself, I said, okay, look, this journey is not in vain. I wish I could have done it differently. And I give an example of the fight against corruption. Okay? Maybe you crusade. Maybe you have been talking about corruption. But we must change. We must stop corruption in the police.
Inevitably.
You understand? Yes. So in this book, you do realize that and say, no, we must dig deep and we must continue. It is not in vain.
Yes.
Okay? And sometimes I ask myself and say that if I went back, that should be number one. How do we fight corruption in the police? You don't want to be a sheep. You don't want to be. You don't want a situation to say he was a good man, but the system is bad. You understand? So I write about that and I say, look, we must be able to change the perceptions, not only the perceptions, but even the behaviors on what we are doing with it when we are serving the people.
That is a very, very interesting storyline, of course, talking about the challenges that have also been involved in that kind of service, but also what is it hearing you talk about the depth of the story that is put across in Chosen, and obviously that is a journey that you have walked, something that Ugandans now are going to be relating to by reading this book, and we do know that you being the first police officer to actually come out and give a memoir of what has been the life journey, that is something very inspiring, and it's interesting for Ugandans that I think it should be, should be something to look out for. But you're going for to launch this book, and as we conclude, what can the readers expect, and obviously where can they get the book as well, and what will be your message that goes on with the book on what they can expect still?
The reader should expect a very scintillating story. This is a story that you are not going to put down. This is a story that is weaved so well. A story of me, a true story of me, a true story of a young man born from a very poor environment. And this is the story of a young man that has contributed something to society. This is the story of young people who are beginning to ache a living, or beginning to work, or maybe have not worked, to know that it must come from within you. There is nobody who grants you anything that you have. It is a story of somebody who works hard. You must be able to work hard. You must have to have humility. You must know that I'm working for the people of this country. You must know that for me to be able to do that, I must shun corruption. I must be able to work as a team. I must be able to know my country. Where has my country come from?
Bringing
Where is it
values,
now?
but at the same time, what you can contribute within your country, and of course, that is something that we're also interested in.
Exactly. Exactly.
How do we get that book?
This book is first of all, we are launching it on the 30th of July. This is next Saturday. Okay, tomorrow is the Saturday, the following at Aigp West Shopping Mall. We shall start at 2. And our chief guest is going to be the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Thomas Tayebwa. He will be with us there. We have very many invited guests. This book is also going to be on Jumia. So anybody can go to Jumia and order for the book, and they will bring it to you.
That's a good part, because you're able to, you can get it right from the company.
Yes, but you can also pre-order this book with me, but on Momo Pay, and the merchant code is 636968. I'll say it again, 636968. So I will be able to get your pre-order. I will autograph the book, your copy, and your copy is going to be given to you. Me and you will agree on where the book is going to be. But we're also going to have this book in the major bookstores, Aristotle and other bookstores, and definitely you will be able to get this book. We shall also try to make sure that we bring it at you, probably at churches or mosques and institutions, so that you can be able to get a copy of this book.
Well, there you have it. You can get a copy of this book, and obviously with all those options, I think that a lot of Ugandans will be getting those books right even from the comfort of their homes. That is one to look out for.
It's 50,000.
50,000.
50K.
There you have it.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for making the time to come here and of course tell us about this book. It has been a pleasure, and just as we conclude, one word or two to you.
As I conclude, I want to thank you so much, the people of Uganda, for making me. Because for me, I believe that who I am is not only is God, but also being able to serve the people of Uganda. And number two is that these days we learn a lot from sacrifices of people, and I think this helps us to become who we are. So I believe that if you get this story, read it, it will never leave you the same. And I want to thank you